Jefferson referred to music as his favorite passion. He played the fiddle. This is a work about harpsichord and spinets, and it's there for one reason only, and it's very Jefferson. His daughter was about to have a harpsichord ordered for her. Jefferson decided to do a little study based on his reading, ordered a custom-built harpsichord with a few improvements that he had come across while reading, and that's from this exhibition. Well, this is the display as it stands now. The gentleman is entering the circle of books of Thomas Jefferson's library. Jefferson wanted his collection to be in a circle. It never really was. Even though there is a circular room at Monticello, it was immediately co-opted as the nursery by his daughter, among other things. So it's really not until they've landed at the Library of Congress and has been reconstructed do we really have this moment. And I have to say, when we step in to the collection, we have this moment in which you sort of feel Jefferson's universe surrounding you. You have this moment in which you have an understanding of Jefferson wanting to capture in America the world of ideas that he so envied in Europe and made accessible for him. There is one other way of looking at Jefferson's library, and that's to go to chapter 15. Chapter 15 is referred to as technical arts. What technical arts means to Jefferson is everything that I can't categorize in any other fashion. And in fact, it's sort of stuck between history and reason, is chapter 15. Collectors understand this. These are the books that seem to have promise but then end up defying category, or a collecting trend that later falls to the wayside, or a fad, or unrequested books that have been given to you that you don't quite know what to do with. All of these get thrown into chapter 15, technical arts. But I think this is really where Jefferson's collecting shines through, in part because I think it's closest to what Diderot was telling us to do with the encyclopedia, and Jefferson seems to follow it. To collect all the knowledge that now lies scattered over the face of the earth, to make known its general structure to the men among whom we live, and to transmit it to those who will come after us. Chapter 15 includes books on education, shorthand, gardening, accounting, military strategy, beekeeping, brewing, bookkeeping. You have works on the language for the deaf, the Vox Oculus Subjecta. You have James Weston's book on stenography. You have shorthand books. You have Caslon type specimens. You have Parmentier on the potato. You have 2 works on aerostation, or flying in hot air balloons. And you have this, the only book from chapter 15 which survived the 1851 fire. Count Rumford's 2-volume work, which of all the things to survive, Rumford is the perfect example of the technical arts chapter. Why? Well, he was a born American, but a loyalist, and therefore returns to England during and after the conflict. He made his way into a friendship with the Duke of Bavaria, and hence becomes a Count of the Holy Roman Empire, hence Count Rumford. He went on to design a better stove and a better chimney. He was a nutritionist. He wrote several essays on the benefit of coffee over tea. He's been credited with inventing the folding bed, and he made improvements on the design of lamps. His main accomplishment, which most remember him, is his role in founding the Royal Institution in 1800, but it's this book full of these oddities that made him a perfect candidate for technical arts. Or we could turn to this. Jefferson witnessed a hot air balloon ride while in France. And then later this. This is Jean-Pierre Blanchard's journal of his ascension, first performed in America on the 9th of January, 1763, published in Philadelphia. Jefferson witnessed this event as well. 5 days later, he recalled in a letter, "We were entertained here lately at the ascent of Mr. Blanchard in the balloon. The security of the thing appeared so great that everybody is wishing for a balloon to travel in. I wish for one sincerely, as instead of 10 days, I should be home in 5 hours instead." Or this, Jefferson's fascination not only with shorthand, but also code. There's a very famous manuscript of the Library of Congress in which Thomas Jefferson, a level of naivete that still escapes us, I guess, gives Lewis and Clark an entire cryptographic guide for how they should send their reports back from the wilderness. I don't know who he thought was going to be intercepting these reports out there in the woods, but nonetheless, he insisted that they write in code. Of course, they never did. But it's a very complicated chart, and to show them how the code actually worked, he transcribed a sentence for them, and the sentence tells you everything of what he expected to happen. I think the sentence reads along the line of, at the mouth of the Missouri, all is well, so far Indians friendly. This is also the section in which his correspondence with those individuals who are working in applied science, desalination, where you can have fresh water and salt available, shows up here. A dynamometer shows up here. A variety of metric measurements show up in this collection. And this, Robert Fulton's Torpedo War and Submarine Explosions pamphlet from 1810. Fulton actually sends 4 pamphlets, apologizes to Jefferson because he's afraid that Jefferson may think this is a little newfangled, this idea of torpedo warfare, and that perhaps he's not open to innovation. Very wrong thing to say to Thomas Jefferson. And so he gets quite a little dose of, I have read your pamphlets with pleasure. I am not afraid of new inventions or improvements. And then in a very Jeffersonian turn, manages to take this conversation about applied science and turns it into a critique of the North. I'm not afraid of new inventions or improvements, nor bigoted to the practices of our forefathers. It's the bigotry which keeps the Indians in a state of barbarism in the midst of the arts. Would have kept us in the same state even now, and still keeps Connecticut where their ancestors are and goes on to a full critique of Connecticut, and then sums up by saying, your torpedoes will be to cities what vaccination has been to mankind. And then pauses in the letter and says, have you considered steam? But there's also a Jefferson you're not expecting. Sleight of hand, card playing, your Hoyle's book on whist, collateral beekeeping, brewing. There's a very famous pamphlet that we were still looking for quite some time, The Theory and Practice of Brewing from 1804, which Jefferson had lent to Captain Merriweather. And then several days later sends a note by messenger saying, we are this very day beginning the business of brewing malt liquor. Send me my book, which it never does return. On hearing the sale of Jefferson's library to Congress, John Adams wrote to Jefferson in 1814, by the way, I envy you this immortal honor. These are 2 former American presidents already resigned to the idea that they will not be remembered for their role in the Revolution, if you can imagine that. And that in fact, as would always irk Adams, Jefferson's road to immortality will be the sale of his private collection to the American